Okay, I'm with David Mowat, MP for Warrington South. David, hello.
Good afternoon.
And we're going to go through some local and not so local issues affecting the people of Warrington and Warrington South. Firstly, it's 12 months on since you personally got re-elected to represent the people of Warrington South. More recently, in the local elections, your party's almost been wiped out. What do you put that down to?
Well, first of all, it was a privilege 12 months ago to be re-elected with an increased majority, for which I thank those that voted for me. But you're right, the local elections were disappointing for us in Warrington. I mean, there's several reasons for it. One is that people do vote differently locally than they vote nationally. I mean, that's true in many places, particularly true in the south of Warrington. So that's one thing. The second thing, of course, is the turnout is quite different in local elections to national elections, 70% versus 35%. And the third thing, you can over-exaggerate it a little bit, we did still come second in Warrington, and we come second in a lot of different seats, although we only got 2 councillors. I think had it been on proportional representation, we'd have done a bit better. But you're right, the results were disappointing, and some good councillors, hard-working councillors on parish and local councils, borough council, lost their seats, and I was sad about that.
And how have they taken it personally?
Well, they were sad as well, and surprised, I guess. But that is what democracy is. So you dust yourself down and get on with it.
And with it being 4 years before there's another election,
no, that's quite right.
There's a long time to make any impact or changes.
That is true. That is true. I think I do support the principle of all-out elections, but you're right. One of the things about it is that it will be 4 years till the next one. It does mean that at the next elections, it'll be a much higher turnout because it'll be a general election, and that is likely to mean that our candidates do quite a bit better. One
of the big issues affecting Warrington all the time is the traffic, and there are plans in place to bring in these 2 new bridges for Warrington. What's the latest update on these new bridges, David?
Well, it's the work continues to go ahead in getting the planning finished. There's, as you say, going to be 2 of them. The first one over at just at the other end of Gainsborough Road. Work on that will start on the ground in terms of digging about this time next year, so people should be able to see action on that. And that's the low-level bridge over the Mersey there. And then the other bridge, the bigger one, the high-level bridge, that is also progressing. Detailed plans are being done by the council, but the money has been allocated by the government, and the work on that will start in, I think, 2 years from now, and again, opening 2 or 3 years after that. So going ahead, and it's good. And as you say, we need them.
Well, I was going to say the traffic just seems to be getting worse and worse.
Well, yes, is the only answer to that. We need those bridges, and the sooner the better. And let's just hope there's no delays.
And as well as those 2 new bridges, we've got this new toll bridge, which has caused a little bit of controversy on this side of the water, with local people worried that they might have to pay the tolls, but I believe that they're still hopeful that they won't have to pay the tolls.
Well, I am, yes. As you say, the government made a commitment before the election that Warrington citizens or council taxpayers wouldn't have to pay the tolls, and I reconfirmed that about 3 months ago with the Chancellor. Admittedly, he hasn't told me how he's going to do it yet, but I'm holding him to account on it.
Right, well, hopefully that will come to fruition.
I hope so.
There's also been a lot of talk locally about an elected mayor for Cheshire and Warrington. What are your views on that?
Well, it's part of the whole devolution agenda, as the government calls it, and I am completely in favour of it. Manchester and Greater Manchester is going to have a mayor. We've heard about that, and Merseyside will have a new mayor. If Cheshire Warrington as an area doesn't also have in place a structure to compete from funds from the government, there's a risk that we could lose out. And there will be devolvement of transport, of planning functions from Whitehall to Warrington and Cheshire, and the mayor will be responsible for those, and I support that. So there could be an election for that mayor as early as a year from now.
Well, some people might argue that Warrington and Cheshire are 2 quite different places, so how could one person fit it
That's
running
true
too?
of everything, though. I mean, it's not. I mean, there's about 1 million people in Warrington and Cheshire. That is still smaller than Merseyside, and it's still smaller than what is the Greater Manchester. And there's a mayor of London, which is a huge area, a very diverse area. It's about economic clout, and I think the choice for Warrington was either to go in with Manchester, to go in with Merseyside, or to go in, as we've done, rightly, I think, with Greater Cheshire. And I think that's the right answer, and it's going to be the best for the town.
And that could be as soon as next year, that election.
Yeah, we don't. Look, people have to agree it, and all 3 councils in Warrington and Cheshire have to formally agree it. But I think there is momentum to it, and I think if we don't do it, the risk is we lose out, and we lose effectively money and, potentially the next tranche in future of better roads and better infrastructure.
Final question, David. We're nearing D-Day.
We are.
The European Referendum, June the 23rd. It's split opinion, divided parties. People are falling out left, right and centre on the issue. Yeah. Where do you stand on it, and how in particular will it impact on the people of Warrington?
Well, where I stand is after much thought, and it wasn't a particularly easy decision. I am for remaining. I've always thought of myself as being Eurosceptic, and there's a lot of things that are wrong with the European Union. But the argument that wins it for me is in the end about our trade relationships and our ability to create wealth. And that matters to places like Warrington. Warrington's a trading town. One of the things people don't always know about Warrington is we've got a very, very high proportion of private sector versus public sector jobs here. And those are jobs that rely on a good economy, and I am persuaded that being in the euro is most likely to be better for our economy, and therefore that trumps for me some of the other arguments the other side have, which are quite strong about immigration and partly about sovereignty, but in the end it was trade that swung it for me, and that's how I will be voting.
But it has divided opinion, particularly within your own party.
Right. I mean, you mentioned earlier the fight in the tea room we had yesterday. Unfortunately, I missed it. But maybe there'll be more to see. And yes, it's an emotive issue, and it's an important issue. Really, people listening to this need to vote. This arguably is more important than a general election. General elections you can change the government 5 years later. This vote we're doing now won't be changed, I don't think, for, if ever, many, many years, and some decades. So it really does matter, and people need to, I hope, get out there and vote.
Well, that is the important thing. Do you think the people of Warrington and the people in the country will get out, or do you think Apathy might win the day?
No, I don't think it will, actually. I was, a lot of, when I was knocking on doors for the local elections, the main thing people wanted to talk about was this issue, to be honest, rather than the local issues. And I don't think there'll be a lot of apathy around. I think the turnout will be higher than a general election, but we'll see. So
what was the feedback you were getting from people on the doorstep in Warrington? Was immigration the big issue?
Everybody's different. I mean, some people are, yes, for many people that does matter a lot. But also, there's I think a majority of people are looking as though they're going to vote to remain. And the arguments about trade and jobs and how their employer sees things and the prosperity of their employer matters too. But it's it's a balanced thing. People need to think about it. There's 4 weeks to go, and then vote.
Some people I've been talking to seem fearful that if we remain in Europe, we'll have the euro thrust down our throats.
No. I mean, nobody's arguing that. Even I've not heard Brexiteers even arguing that. That we have got a veto on that. That'll never happen. Just in the same way as we're not in the Schengen free movement zone either. Which is why there is some truth in what the Prime Minister has said, in that we've got the best of both worlds at the moment. We're not in the euro, but we are in the free market. And I actually agree with that. Okay, right. Well, the people will decide on June the 23rd. They will. And it'll be a big night. Okay. Well, next day. Thanks for your time, David, and look forward to catching up with you next time. Okay. We've done all 4.